Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. If you do want to put any questions as we go through, please put them in the chat and I'll make sure I address them before we end. I'm hoping, sort of thinking that this will go for around 45 minutes. I do get a bit excited with Bluebeam, so I'll try and make sure I do not go over the hour. I'll try and show you as much as I can in the time that we have together. I'm going to make this webinar pretty approachable for most people. So if you have used Bluebeam a fair bit, you may find some of that reasonably straightforward. Hopefully, I do manage to show you all some little tips and tricks. So even if you are or do consider yourself a pretty seasoned user of Bluebeam, I'm sure I'll show you something that's pretty useful anyway. So I do want to keep it nice and approachable. A little bit about our company. So we're BinZero, Think Future. So we foster innovation through delivering both software and hardware solutions. We do consulting, training, development, and managed services. So while I'm not doing webinars, I'm generally doing training services or consulting stuff. We've become a trusted technology advisor to all our customers through the breadth and depth of our service, offering technical expertise, flexibility, and high levels of customer service and understanding. A little bit about myself. I'm the structural technical lead at A2K, Cloud A2K. I do a fair bit of software implementation and business workflow transformation. I do have 25 years of practical experience in the structural and consulting engineering industry, doing everything from industrial, commercial infrastructure, high density residential developments, both design and construction documentation. I have been using Revit since about 2010 and Bluebeam Revu since about the same time. Structural engineering associate diploma, certified Autodesk professional, and Bluebeam consultant. I do a lot of speeches and presentations in the industry, and I'm a big believer in automation. So like trying to really get automation in there, and really anything you're doing repetitive, we should be trying to look at a way to do that in another way. So just a bit of our agenda today. So I'm going to go through the compare and overlay functions. Going to just really take us back and just show tool chests again and profiles, and really how you can set up your Bluebeam for different personas. So if you've got someone who's particularly doing estimating or drafting, etc. Really go through and emphasize the difference in the tool chest between properties and drawing mode. A few people do miss this, and it is one of those important things that can really enhance how you do your Bluebeam. Sketch to scale. So again, really focusing on how to draft in Bluebeam, how to do some design and simple drafting in Bluebeam. So sketch to scale, some drafting tips and tricks. And also then going back through the markup list management, creating those summary reports as well. I will have some time for some Q&A at the end. Please put your questions in as we go. If you do notice anything or have any questions, just put them in the chat and I'll review them at the end. If I ask at the end, generally it takes everyone 2 or 3 minutes to type them in, and then we sort of miss out. So if you do have any questions, do feel free just to put them in the chat, and if I've already addressed them, that's fine. So we're going to go into the live demonstration part of it, which is always fun. So I've got review here. I am using the extreme version. Again, if you're ever in doubt which version of Bluebeam you're using, I'm using version 20, and it is the extreme edition. You can find it under review. And if you go to your about, you will get your information, what version you're on, and also like which update and that you have, etc. So we're going to go through the compare and overlay. So what I'm going to do first of all is just open up those 2 files. So I've got 2 files which are like a similar version of each one. So you can see here I've got my two reference plans here, 2 second floor plans. One's revision 1 and one's the original. So I'm just going to select both of them and open them through the Explorer there. So I've got both of those files now open. Now, a simple way to do this comparison and overlay, which is what I always do first of all, is firstly, I just split the window. So there is a little shortcut here to split them vertically. Again, anything to do with that view is under the view tab. So if I go to view, you'll also see split vertical here, and you'll also see the corresponding hotkey. So as soon as I hit that, it'll put them on two separate screens, or it'll split the view. You can see here, I'm actually on the same drawing in each one. So of course I would want to use that tab so that I'm looking at the two different drawings. Now you can see as I go around, I can do a bit of a comparison here, but the best thing to do is to make sure that you synchronize the views, and that will make sure that when I change on one view, I can go to the other, or the other drawing will follow it. So there's synchronized view here. And if you do have up your status bar, you may also see that command here as well. And again, it is under the view tab. It's called synchronize views. And now wherever I zoom to on this screen, it will take me to that corresponding location. You can see how as I go around, it's taking me to those same positions. I can see, for instance, I've got a door here where the original didn't have that door. So I can see some simple changes already. I can come down and I can see that this has the facade on it, where this one doesn't as well. So I can do that real simple comparison straight away. It's real good to do if you've got obviously a new update of a new drawing. I'm going to close that window just by closing that. And I can actually overlay this. Now, the best way to talk about overlay is I like to compare it when I was in the drafting office, where we used to have a light table, or you even used to occasionally hold them up against a bright sunny window if you had two drawings the same but different revisions. I can get the computer to do that. So under the document tab, sorry, not under the document, under the tools. Why am I losing my? Yep, so let's go to, yeah, it was under document. So anything, again, remember, it's always, like you could see straight away, I went to document. So whenever you're trying to do stuff to the document, it's under like the document tab. If you're trying to do things with the view, it's under view. So under document, you can see here, I have overlay pages. So I can overlay those pages. You can see how it's going to put one color as, or one drawing as red and the other one as green. What I can do as well, just a few additional things with this, if I didn't have the other file open, or I even had a third revision that I wanted to add in, I can add another file here. You can see that it's already sort of added the open file. So that's what I always like to do. I always like to open them prior. So it's sort of, you can see it's pre-populated that. If I do hit the add here, I can obviously go and find another drawing, which I won't. I can modify these as well. So I can modify and change the color and things like that, and change the opacity or make a new layer, etc. Generally, this is all okay out of the box. You don't need to do it otherwise. What you can do is you can compare regions of documents. So if you just have like a little detail that's been updated, you can actually select a region and just overlay those two regions. Again, I don't really need to play with any of these settings. Align points here. This is where if you had two drawings that were a different size, say if you had something that was printed on an A3 and you had something that was printed on an A1 sheet, you can then use align points to select 3 different points, which will then correspond and then allow you to pick the three identical points on the other drawing, which would then allow it to scale and overlay them. Quite a useful tool. Again, quite useful if you're trying to just do one little corner detail to see what that's changed rather than do a whole drawing as well. I'm just going to hit OK. You'll see it will create a new drawing overlay, and you can see that it's given one the green color and one the red color. When both of them are together, you get pretty much your black sort of dark brownish color. So you can see everything that's the same. You can see that door change straight away. You can see that facade that I pointed out. I probably would have missed things like this door here, maybe this new wall here as well, this mechanical penetration, etc. So you can see how it's very useful. All this steel framing at the front here was all additional on the second drawing as well. Now it has created layers in that drawing. So if you go to your layers here on the drawing panel, like the panel, you can see that it's allocated a layer to each drawing. I can turn these layers on and off. So if I did just want to see the original plan, for instance, I can just turn that off, which will then highlight the first drawing and do the opposite as well. So I can do that and get the red drawing. So it's quite easy to see what's new and what's not. It is great if you do get those two different drawings from your consultants, etc., or your clients. Makes it real easy. That's an overlay that can be saved as a file, and you can save it and send it as an overlay as well. I'm going to close that down. There is another method we can use. We can use what's called a comparison. So the comparison really uses the computer power or uses the power of Bluebeam Revu to go through that and actually highlight those changes. So I'm going to go back again under our document tab, and you can see overlay here as well. We just did overlay. I'm going to do compare. So we can do a comparison. Again, you can see because I've got those two drawings open, it has automatically populated it with document A, which is the revision, and document B, which is the older one. I probably want to, I'd like make a note here that the document A revision 1, that's the later document. Again, I could use this manual alignment here if the drawings didn't line up exactly, or I wanted to just do a part of the drawing. There are some comparison tools in here. So generally, you sort of play with these, you sort of get a feel what works for one project may not work the best for the other. You may need to sort of play around to find the right settings for your particular project. You can do printed documents, the same printer, different printer, or scan documents. What these do is they really change these advanced settings to sort of change the accuracy. So you can see here, again, as I change that comparison type, you can see that things like the color sensitivity is just moving around a little bit to give you the optimal result. So I'm going to do the same printer. You can see here, this is important, the markup. So it's going to actually mark up the differences. And I really want it to give me, so remember, like I want to see the difference between both, but I want to get a new copy of document A. So I really want to get a new copy of the latest. Yeah, rather than the sort of second one. I'm going to get it to cloud that difference. I probably don't need to lock those clouds and hit OK. Again, you can see it's going to apply to a new copy of document A and OK. And document A is my second revision. I could flip these around, and like I said before, if I needed to like point to a new document, yes, I can use these little 3 dots here to jump to another document if I did need to. Always the best case to open the documents you're trying to compare. I think that's the best method to use. Hit OK. We'll compare the documents. You can see it's actually activated that split view. I probably don't really need that, to be honest, so I can go just back to one window by just hitting this and going to unsplit. And you can see that it's actually gone through and clouded the changes. So where the other one sort of allocated a different color, you can see here that it's gone through and clouded those changes. So this is great if you've got a supplier or whatever that sent you latest revisions and hasn't clouded the drawings. These are all the section marks. So you can see on that original one, or sorry, on the later one, it didn't have the section marks, where you can see on the original drawing, it had all these section marks on it. Again, that's probably not a change as such. It's more just a drawing update, so it's not really relevant. So I can simply select these clouds and just simply go through and delete the ones that aren't really showing me a sort of structural change to the drawings. So I can delete out the clouds that sort of aren't really like a part of the drawing. Well, they're part of the drawing, but not part of the building as such. So there you go, very quickly, I just fixed that up. I've got the drawing there with the differences. I can go through and I can make sure things like this door aren't going to get missed out on my variations, etc. It's quite clear what the changes are. Again, that sensitivity can be a little bit different. If I really looked at this corner here, you may find that there isn't a significant change. So you can see on that one there, it looks sort of the same. And on this one, that line might have slightly, but it's actually not that big a change. So again, I could probably delete that cloud out, for instance, and just have it on the major changes. So that's your comparison and overlay. Quite great features if you're really dealing with a lot of drawings. Again, you can save this as a separate PDF, etc. Which I might do just in case someone asks a question and we want to go back to it. So what I'm going to go through now is just the tool chest and profiles and how that works. So you can see the tool chest here in my panel. And I've got sort of my tools set up. Got a few markups that I use here. I've also got some universal beams that I made up when we do sketch to scale. So I'm actually going to show that today as well, how to set that up. And some flooring quantities, etc. Now, this is a profile that I use quite commonly, but you may have someone who's just doing some estimating or doing drafting, etc. So we can change that profile and actually push that out to different people in our company just to make it more approachable. If someone's not going to use universal beams, it's probably not warranted to actually give them that in a tool set. So to change the persona, you can simply come under your review tab and you can go to the profiles and change to different ones or create a new one. You can see here that I've got one created for a client. And if I change that, you'll see that my tool chest will change and even all my toolbars changed as well. So you can save the toolbars in it. You can see that it's changed the different profile and I've got a lot more tools that I sort of didn't have before. So this makes it very easy. If someone's doing like a fire thing, I can put on the thermal detectors, etc., just by dragging and dropping and put all these quantities on to get my quantities out. So that's a different profile. I'm going to show you how to now make a tool chest and how to put an item into that tool chest. I will just flip back to my profile. And what I'm going to do is just a simple markup on this door here. So I'm not going to do the drafting yet. I'll just do a simple markup just to keep it simple. Go to my tools and markup and just create a simple Cloud Plus. Cloud Plus is always a good one to use. I can do an area around that and it will also give me the call out as well here. And I can put corner column to be adjusted. Now, as we all know, we may not all know, I can manipulate this and change all the settings in it. So I generally like to use a bit of a fill on it. It stands out a bit nicer. I probably like to avoid red unless it's a real change, you know what I mean? So I might go to like a dark sort of bluish color. I'll do the same for the line as well, which I didn't match those colors exactly. And I can do the same with my text. So you'll see all these settings up here. These settings as well are all available under the properties. So if you go to properties here, you get all these same. It's generally, you get a bit more subtlety here. So you can sort of, it's a little bit easier to change in the properties, I suppose, rather than using the actual properties bar where you have to sort of slide it across if there's a few things. I generally like to put a fill on it as well. And always sort of put a bit of a shade on that of like sort of maybe 20%, which will really sort of just make it pop a little bit better. Now, if I wanted someone to use that same sort of markup, obviously I want to save that into a tool set so someone else can grab that straight away and do it. So first of all, I need to create a new tool set. So if I go under the tools chest here, you'll see right down the bottom, I can manage my tool sets. So I'm going to create a new tool set. Come down here, or it doesn't matter, I don't need to use the slider. I'm going to simply add a new one. Give it a name. So I'm just going to call this I might actually call this sketch to scale. So I am going to show how that we can use this in a scale drawing as well. So I'm just going to call it sketch to scale. And okay, I am creating a new one. You could path it to an existing one which is on your network, which you may want to share with other people. I'm just going to create a new one from scratch. I do want to display it. I don't need to show it in all profiles. I am going to just add it into this one profile, as I just described then with the profiles. You know, if you don't want everyone to use it or it's not necessary for all of your profiles to have it, I would not tick this. I'd probably leave it off by default and not do it in all profiles. Relative path, that just means if you search it to someone, it will find it easily if because it's got the relative path. Hit OK. And this can save where you want it to save. I'm just going to save it in my roaming, where all my other ones go. Look at that, already exists. Let's override it. You'll see now these tick boxes are what determines if it's displayed here in your current tool chest. So you can see if I turned on my test markups, for instance, that would come available here. If I turn it off, it'll disappear. Whenever you create a new one, it will always sit at the bottom. You can move it up to the top, but just by hitting these arrows, and you'll see eventually how it'll get up to the top where it's meant to be. And hit OK. To add something into your tool chest, quite simple. There's generally like 3 ways to do it. What I like to do, one of the mantras that I have when I work with Bluebeam a lot is, if in doubt, right click it out. So do make sure that if you're wondering what to do, you do select it and hit right click, and that will give you generally all the options available for it. So you can see here, I can cut, copy, paste, format, painter, change the colors, control points, etc. Add it into a legend, etc. I do want to add it to my tool chest. You will notice here, out of the multitude of tool chests I had available, it is only seeing the 4 or 5 that I actually have turned on. So you can only add it to an open tool chest or tool set. Tool chest is the collection of tool sets. Add to tool chest, add it to my sketch to scale, and you'll see it jump in there. I can also select it and go to the properties, and you'll see right down the bottom in the properties, we have that same add to tool chest. And again, I could select that same one here. The other way to add it in is it will remember what the last things you did. So you can see in recent tools, I have the original or the cloud that we did when we did the overlay. And then I have my cloud plus that I just created. So I can simply select it from my recent tools and simply drag and drop it into my sketch to scale. You will notice here that the 2 icons are different, even though it is the same thing. The original one is what we call a drawings mode, and this is what we call properties mode. The difference is, if I bring this one straight on, you'll see that it's exactly the same. And if I did want it to look slightly different, I would need to activate the grips and drag this around to that new area, and then change the note accordingly. You can see that that still works. There's nothing really wrong with that. Like some people don't mind having it like that. This is what we call a properties mode, where it will grab the properties of that, but it won't be restricted to like the size and that it was before. So if I do select this one, I can select that whole circle area, and you can see how it's really putting it in like from scratch. So profiles to be added. So you can see how straight away it's grabbed the properties of it, but hasn't grabbed the type of it. So you can see they've gone in differently here. Those icons might be a bit small, might be a bit big. You can use this slider at the bottom here to make them bigger. to resize them as you like. I try to just keep it in the middle, but it's up to you. To change them from drawings to properties mode, you can simply double click. You'll see that if I double click on this icon here, it'll change to that one. And if I double click on this one, it'll change to what it was as well. So you can see here, simply by double clicking, I can change it from the drawings mode to the properties mode or vice versa. Again, by right clicking, I can change it to drawing mode or properties mode from inside the tool chest. There are also, you can see here that this is an icon tool chest where these show more detail on it. So again, that is in the settings themselves of that tool set. So I could change the settings and change this to actually be a detail rather than the symbol. So if I change it to detail, you'll see how it gives those details. Again, it's up to you. Some people don't mind the symbols, they sort of know what they are, but I always find it's probably more useful to have a bit of a description in there. So that's quite important. The properties and drawings mode will really change the way you use Bluebeam if you weren't aware of that. So I'm going to go through sketch to scale and really show how that works. I'm going to open up a different drawing actually. So I do have it recently open. So if I go to file, I get all my recent documents here and I can open, let's find the one I wanted, which was this one. So this is a drawing here. Now, just one thing to note, the previous drawings I did use did have a scale set. You can see how it was 1 measured inch would be 487 centimeters. This drawing, the one that I've just opened, does not have a scale set. Scale is not set. The first thing you should always do is set the scale. And whenever you go to do a distance as such, if you wanted to measure something off, you would see as soon as I went to do a distance, it would come up and ask me straight away to set the scale. If you're only doing clouds and that, it's not going to ask you to set that scale. So we do need to set the scale though before we sort of do any drafting as such. So the first thing I'm going to do is you can do this under the measurements tab here, under the measurements panel, or I can go under the tools tab and go to measure and set the scale here. You can see it does have the corresponding icons and these are in my tool sets. Sorry, not tool sets, that's a toolbar across the top. So we can see that corresponding icon is in my toolbar here. I'm going to set the scale. So let's set the scale and let's set it on the current document. Again, I can set that on pages, etc. Just use my presets and 1 to 100. This may not be the right scale. Occasionally you'll have like A1 drawings that have been sent through an A3 format, so the scale may be a little bit off. If that's the case, I do recommend using the custom and coming here to actually calibrate the drawing. So when you use calibrate, that will ask you to select 2 points of a known distance. So I can go, okay, I'll just close that. I can see I've got a height here of the building, so I can pick a point here, make sure that that's coming directly up and select the end point of that line. And I can see that that needs to be 5.845 meters. Again, if I wanted that in millimeters, I can simply change this and you'll see how that will update accordingly. If you're doing millimeters, probably only need your precision to be the nearest millimeter, where in meters, I would have it to the 0.01. Apply that scale. And that scale has now been applied to that drawing. Now, I do have a toolbar that I've already used. So I'm going to use that as well. And then I'll show you how to create your own. You can see this one. So you can see here generally on the tool sets that they don't have the sketch to scale on it. This little triangle here denotes that it's a sketch to scale tool set. Another thing you'll note is that this is a 1 to 100 section. And this detail down here is a 1 to 20 detail. So I have a different scale on the drawing. To do a different scale on the drawing, again, it's under the measurements panel. And we can actually add a viewport down here. So I can go to plus to add that viewport. Select a region to define that viewport. Now, you may not want to show these messages again. You may have it turned off. If ever you're sort of confused what it's asking for, do follow your status bar here. You can see that it's saying the same thing. Select the region to containing markups. So that's if you don't have this or choose not to show that again, do make sure you're following your status bar. I can select a rectangle over that 1 to 20 area. Apply that scale of 1 to 20 and hit apply. Now, if I do use this sketch to scale toolset, you can see that it's activated because it has that blue, like the blue highlight on it. I can deactivate that and that will just turn it into a normal sort of toolset. It still does have the scale embedded into it, but it's not activated. I would want to make sure that's activated. And if I grabbed, for instance, a 410 UB, selected and placed that in my 1 to 100, you can see if I go and place that same beam in my 1 to 20 detail, that it will go up in size correspondingly. So you can see as soon as I go on that blue viewport area, it's going to allow that to be put in at the right scale as well. Like I was saying, if I did deactivate that, you would find that it's the same size throughout. So it will be the same size here and the same size here. Where if I have it activated, it will go up in size. Now, how do I create a sketch to scale toolset? So again, it's just a matter of creating that sketch to scale tool set, which I've already done from before, just using that same tool set we just created. First of all, I want to actually draw my item. So let's draw a similar sort of structural beam. I know that this is sort of on architects. I could do it with a toilet or something, I suppose, from the other one. I might do that as well, add a toilet in as well, to really show how to get these drawings out quite quickly. So I'm just going to draw a simple line. I probably want to draw a sketch to scale line so that I can get those distances exactly right. So the sketch to scale is under your tools and you will see sketch to scale here. You can see how it's got those 4 tools: a polyline, ellipse, rectangle, and polygon. I do have it in my toolbar here. Again, I have just gone to toolbar and just turned on my sketch to scale. So you can see it's the sketch one. If I turn that off, you can see it's disappearing. So that's it through there. If you go to toolbars and turn it on, it will become a toolbar. I'm going to just draw a line. Let's draw it at 1 to 100. I'm trying to think of something else to draw rather than a structural beam. Do forgive me. Let's just draw another structural beam. So I know from that point, it's 200 mils across. So I can actually type in 200 and hit enter twice to finish that off. Again, I could change the color of the line, etc. I am just going to leave it as is. I might draw another line from the middle. And I'll draw that down, let's say 300. And that's that line. Just to show how we can change some things, I might just make that green and maybe make it a little bit thinner as well. And again, I can actually use my snaps. So I can use my select here to actually select that line. And then as long as I'm snapping to both the content and the markup, I can copy that. So by holding control down, picking the wrong line there, but let's make sure we pick the right one. And by holding control, I can move that. And you can see how it's actually snapping to that line straight away. So I can see how it's snapping to the content and it's actually snapping to that markup and drawing it directly vertically down. And that's my scale beam as such, or scale chair, whatever you wanted to do. Again, simply select it. Always a good idea if you do have multiple lines like that, always create a group. Just makes it work a little bit cleaner, keeps them together better. So I can right click, again, select them all, make sure I select everything, right click on the item, and I can group it. And then I can also right click again and add to my tool chest and add it to my sketch to scale one here. At the moment, it's not a sketch to scale tool set. So if I did select it from here, it's going to put the same item in and it's going to place the same item there. What I need to do is to come to the properties and change this or set the scale of that tool set. So I'll go to set scale. Again, set that at my 1 to 100. I could use the preset here. I can see obviously it's that 1 centimeter to 100 anyway. So I'm just going to apply that scale it has in there. Just to show how it doesn't, like it's 1 to 100 anyway, I might just go to preset and just use the 1 to 100 and hit apply. You can see now that that has applied that sketch to scale symbol to that tool set. Now, if I grab that from there, it will be the same size on my 1 to 100. And if I drag that down and put that in my 1 to 20 detail, you can see how it has jumped up accordingly in size. So that's the simple way to be able to create these sketch to scale tool sets. Some of the other sort of drafting tips and tricks that you're always going to use a fair bit will be your alignment tools. These are great if you are trying to do some framing. So if you're trying to do framing, you can do the same thing, for instance, with toilets, etc. So for instance, if I come in here or even that sink, if I wanted to add that in, I can see that that does have a scale here. So I can grab that from there as well. So what I could do is grab a snapshot of that. So G is the hotkey for snapshot. It is under your view. Snapshot is under edit and snapshot here. It does have the hotkey of G, probably one of the ones I use a fair bit, so I know it off the top of my head. So G or snapshot, and I can snapshot that sink. You'll see again, as I place that, if I hit my Control V, it will place it as a markup. I can see that's in my recent tools, and I could drag and drop that as well into my sketch to scale tool set. Again, then you can see that if I drop it in, it's going to be at that 1 to 100 scale on this drawing. And if I drop it into here, again, it goes up in size. Quite useful if you were doing a lot of drawings and dragging, dropping toilets or room layouts, etc. It would be a great idea to have a tool set of all the common items you place. And then you can simply drag and drop and create your drawing as such quite quickly. A few of the tools that I like to use are the alignment tools. Now, funnily enough, these aren't really anywhere under our sort of sketch to scale, etc. They're sort of just not really here. So they are a little bit difficult to find. In Revu 20, under the help, there is find tools and commands, which is quite a good thing to use. So here I could just simply start to type in align, for instance, and you can see that all those options become available. These are ones I use a fair bit, especially when I'm doing that design drafting. There's also distribute. You can distribute items vertically or horizontally. So they are tools that I like to use that aren't really in the menu here. You can see that I have added that toolbar up the top along here. So that's where I could go to tools and toolbars, and you can see that there is an alignment toolbar. So that alignment toolbar is quite useful. This is where I could do some steel framing as such. So if I had a beam there and wanted to put, say, 8 beams evenly spaced along the top of this dining room. So what I can do is copy the first and last one. Again, I can hold shift. If I hold shift as I copy it, so control to copy and then shift, you can see how it will copy that in a straight line, and I can place it like such. It didn't really do a straight line, did it? I think because I've got so many snaps on, if I did turn my snap to content and snap to markup off, it would copy that across in a straight line. It is because there are a lot of intersecting points around here. It's obviously trying to pick like the top of the line or the perpendicular, etc. So space like that. Again, I might want to, so I'm going to put my 8 beams just to show you as well. If I was a bit sloppy, I'm holding control, so I'm selecting it and then holding control to copy it and then just placing it. So control to copy, or don't hold control. So I want 8 beams, I said. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one more. And you can see that I have them all a bit out of sorts. Obviously, you'd want to hold your shift down to make sure that they all stay in a line, but I can select all of them. Select the first one again. So just hold shift and make sure that was the last one I selected. And it will align to that last one. So again, I can use my align to top command here. Or if I don't have that toolbar up, I could use that find tools and commands and align top. You can see just another sort of simple tip with Bluebeam. You could see when I first put this in that they were all grayed out. Remember that Bluebeam does that smart thing, Bluebeam Revu, where it will only make the commands that you can actually use highlighted. So they were initially grayed out because I didn't have anything selected. I can align these to the top and they will automatically all align to that position. You can see that my spacing is out. So you can see that these two are clearly closer than these two at the end. So that's where I could use my distribute horizontally to distribute them horizontally between those 2 points. So now I've got those beams all evenly spaced at that position. If I did want to sort of, like I was just evenly space them along the dining room, along the top of the ceiling of the dining room, if you did want to do that over a particular distance, so if you were trying to make up some sort of framing plan, you can actually use your line and draw that line to scale and then snap to that. So for instance, if I use that polyline sketch to scale, select a point, remember in here, I do have that rotation shift. Again, we'll make sure it stays straight at 90 degrees. I could put in 7 meters, for instance, and hit enter twice. Why do you hit enter twice? If I do hit it once, it will give me the end of that line and it will continue. It is a polyline. So you see, if I hit enter again, it will actually put in that 1911. So that's why it can be a bit tricky to get used to. And if I hit escape and go, well, I only really wanted that line. If I hit escape now, it will basically get rid of the whole thing. So that's why the best way to use it is just to select a point, come straight across, put in your 7 meters. You can see it's in millimeters, and hit enter twice, which will both give it the finish for that line. And then also say that I don't really want that any additional polyline. Again, I could select this beam and move it. You will see again how it's snapping to the markup. So I can snap it right to that line. And again, hold control. And you can see how I can snap it right to that endpoint. And then I can do that same thing. So create those 7 beams. Let's just create that many. And again, select them all. Deselect the line by holding shift again. Probably a good idea just to make sure, again, they're all lined to top, which you can see that drop that one down a little bit. And again, distribute them horizontally. And that's how I can sort of do a very accurate sketch to scale one. Yes. So that's sketch to scale, quite a good thing to use. There's all sort of flips as well, so you can sort of rotate. So in other words, if I did bring that toilet on, let's just bring it in here, for instance. If I did just drop that on, you can rotate. So there's a rotate at the top here. You can see that if it's one of those things, like you probably can't really see it, the more I zoom in, the smaller it gets. You can see how I could rotate that 90 degrees or even rotate it sort of 60 degrees if I wanted to. There's all those little tricks in it. You can actually rotate that accurately as well in the properties. You'll see if I go into the properties after I drop that sink in, you'll see the rotation down here. And this is where you could easily get that. I can see NASA is in the chat saying, you know, about grids and that. So if you had sort of a grid that was at like 25.3 degrees or something, you could simply put that 25.3 into the rotation and hit that enter and you'd get that exactly accurately. So you can do that. There's also mirror, like flip horizontal. So I could flip that. That's probably not the best example, but you can see how I can flip it. But I probably wouldn't be flipping sinks. I'd probably just be using the rotation. But if you did have like a room layout, for instance, if you're coming at it from that real architectural point of view, you could open up a room and you could actually redesign that room quite quickly. So just going to a plan I've got of it, which is this one, and open. If I did want to sort of flip that laundry and toilet room, for instance, again, I could do my G or snapshot, edit, snapshot, grab that whole room, paste it back in. And if I really wanted to flip it, I could select it. Things like this as well, like if you were doing that real room design, another thing you might want to do is really, because if as soon as I flip it, the issue is going to be that it's going to flip all the text as well. So to avoid that issue, what I would generally do is I'd actually flatten this to the item so I can select it and flatten it. Once I flatten the item, I can actually start to take out the content. So I can come to edit. Now that this is actually part of the PDF, you can see that I can't actually move that anymore or select it. I can come into edit. I can go to the PDF content and I can actually start to erase that content. So I can come here and erase that text. What it might be an idea to do as well is actually to take snapshots of those items. So I could snapshot that text, again, just paste it in and snapshot that text as well. I'd probably want to be a bit more careful about it and make sure I'm not grabbing the edge of the line, but you can see I've got that text out and I can actually come in, edit the content and erase that content now. I want to make sure I get rid of the circle as well and zoom in and get rid of that powder room. And there you go, I've got that, which again, I can now grab with a snapshot, paste it back in. Now I can move it. Obviously, I probably don't want that content where it is anymore. So come in, edit, and erase that content again, and erase that whole old room. And now I can select this. Let's flip it vertically so it's nice and obvious. So you can see now I've put the powder room on the south side, sorry, the powder room on the north side. Then select my text, replace that back in. And placed in my laundry, and you can see very quickly how I have created a new orientation for that item without having to sort of reinvent the wheel as such. It's good that the powder room text is pretty much too big for the powder room, but yeah, the joys of drafting. So that's it there. So that's it. We are getting a bit tight on time. I've only got 10 minutes. I'm meant to show a bit of markup list management as well, and how to create summary reports. I'll probably just open up a quick PDF that I've prepared earlier. Let's hopefully I can find something. Apologies, I probably should have made sure I had stuff already. Let's make sure I can see something with a heap of markups in it. I've got, yeah, so here we go. I've got just one here with a fair few markups on it. I've done some room markups, etc. I know that this isn't a quantities presentation, so this is quantities. So anything I do is constantly being tracked in the markups list. So you can see from that initial one here that the markups list down the bottom, you can see those items have been added in, all those beans I've added, and all those sketched to scale. You can see that it's counted the beans as well, and I've got all that information about it, all that metadata, who created it, how long those lines were, etc. So you can see here, if I went to this one, you can see how it's got all these quantities, all these area measurements, count measurements, length measurements, etc. Funnily enough, all created by me again, and all with different lengths, area measurements, etc. Now, so to manage this markup list, I can come under and I can go to columns. I can add on additional metadata or even create new formulas, which I won't be doing today if we're going to be a bit tight on time. I can change the order, so I can select, I'll bring on maybe the width as well. So you can see how that goes in here. And I can simply even drag these around to a different position. So I can have width in front of length, etc. or area. I can do that through the markups list as well. I can go to columns and go to manage those columns. And again, you can see I've got these arrows here. So whatever I selected, I could move up or down accordingly, which would change the order that they go into. I can filter this list. So by going to filter, and then I can choose what I want to filter them by. Let's say I just want to get the area measurements, for instance. Now, the giveaway with filtering the lists is that when you hit it, it will go orange. I can then say, well, I only want to really get the area measurements. So I can select area measurement, all the options I've got here, and it will give me just those areas. You can see how it's actually grayed out the other markups. So those counts have disappeared. Or if I do the counts, you can see how it's grayed out those areas. Let's say, yep, I just wanted the areas. Let's get rid of the counts. And then I can choose to export that. So I can export these areas. So I can export that or get a summary of that. One thing I like to do if you're trying to utilize Excel as well is you can export it as a CSV summary. So you can export it. Then you can, because I've got those area measurements, you can see here that it's straight away taking the area measurement. I can choose which columns I want to take. I probably don't want to take all the labels and locks and all that. So what I'll probably do is clear all of those and just take my length and take my the area as well. So I can get that measurement and maybe get the unit as well. Choose where I want to output it to. So I'm going to output it to a location somewhere, and I might even get it to open that file afterwards. So I'll take out the replies and I'll get it to open the file after creation. Because I have a CSV file as my default reader, that did open on my other screen, I'll bring it down. Because my default reader for a CSV file is Excel, you can see straight away how that has put all that information in. Probably don't need this one. That's probably a bit superfluous. And there we go. So that's how quickly to export or create that summary. I can create it as a PDF report as well, which will actually hyperlink that. So if I did export it and create it as a PDF summary, and I can append it to the title as well. So I can append and hyperlink to my current PDF and hit OK. You'll see that this has now gone up to a 2-page PDF and it's got those counts on it. And it's got all that metadata about it and it's hyperlinked. So if I select that there, it'll take me to that position on that PDF. That was probably a bit quick to show you that markup list bit. I do hope everyone's got some valuable information out of today. We have pretty much gone over an hour. Like I said, I do tend to get excited and get right into it. If you've got any questions, now is probably a good time to put them in the chat so I can review them. Naza's asking about setting up a grid, etc. So yeah, it's a bit funny, like with grids, the issue you have with grids now, it's quite easy to set up the grids themselves. The numbering can get a bit funny. So again, if you just want to set up a grid, again, you could just do a simple line. I'm not so worried about the actual sketch to scale, so I'm just going to draw a straight line. Again, you'd probably want that in, I'm just going to do it in blue so it stands out better. And yes, you would probably want your sort of center line, like, so it looks like a grid line as such. You may want to as well change the, yep, so I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. I would do a circle on top of it. So I do a circle and just select a point. You can see, funnily enough, it always wants to draw an ellipse. So if you do hold shift down, you can sort of overrule it to actually be a circle. Bring that in, put it at the end. Again, you can sort of move that exactly onto that point. And I'll just put a text box in front. Now you can actually put in a circular text box. So you can see here, you can put a shape on it and you can actually get a circular one, which will go around it. Sometimes I find that a little bit sort of tricky because it's sort of trying to do it sort of too big. You can see I can still auto size it to suit and sort of get it in the middle, but I would prefer to actually just put the text box in without that boundary, and just get the simple A, and then paste that in. Again, you could put it in and distribute them vertically. So what I would do is, once I've got that, again, you can nudge even just by using your arrows. Once you're happy with that, select it all. I would create a group. And again, you can sort of copy that across, hold your shift down and copy that grid across. Again, you can select those three by holding shift to add. And I do have them pretty well. You can tell I'm a drafty by trade. I do have them pretty well equal, to be honest. Let's make it obviously not equal. Select all them again. And I could distribute them horizontally. And then you've got the, like you say, if you want to then go to B's and C's, etc. So you would then have to select it and ungroup it, so sort of explode it, and then come in and manually change that. That's one of the things that you sort of wouldn't be able to get around as such, but it's something like you're obviously going to have to rename them at some stage. So that would be the quickest way to do it. Again, if you did want to get those accurate distances between them, I would use this polyline sketch to scale to give me that actual, again, I'd need to set a scale, etc. But that way you could get the exact distance between the grids and copy between those points. Yes, this recording will be available for future reference. That will probably conclude us for today if we don't have any more questions. If you do put any in the chat, I am still happy to address them. We do have an end of financial year promotion. So you can win 5 of the State of Origin tickets to go up to Brisbane, or if you're in Brisbane, go there. We probably wouldn't fly you up, to be honest. You'd probably just get the tickets to the game. So yeah, 5 gold tickets for game 3, which as we all know will probably be a decider, the way it always works. So that's that. Do just make sure you purchase a Bluebeam license with maintenance. You don't need, it doesn't matter if you purchase 1 or 50, you'll get an entry. Do make them through our Cloud A2K website or through us. Contact us at info@cloud-a2k for more information. And thank you for watching. And please reach out to us at info@cloud-a2k.com for any information you do have. Hopefully you've all learned something today, and yeah, get on to Bluebeam. Excellent. Thank you.